Kendi and Oswald. I've been missing cooking with you guys, so I thought I would just make a little video of what I'm cooking tonight, and then maybe if you want to do it with your family another night, you can do it as well. This seems like it's been a kind of a time of wanting comfort food for a lot of people, so I'm making a chili, which is always a comfort food in my house, and I'm also working a little bit with what I have. It's okay. You can get creative and you don't always have everything on hand. So this is what I am using tonight. So I've got green onions, I've got some garlic, I've got an onion, regular red onion, I've got some fresh corn, I've got some canned corn. We have been trying to have no meat this entire March, and mostly my family. And mostly we've been doing just vegetables, and it's fine. But I bought this just to try, so who knows? It could be good. So it looks like hamburger, but it's made out of plants. And then I have some chili and lime seasoning. I think everything's better with lime. This is again, I'm really big on using up what you have left. This was some tomato paste and diced tomatoes, fire roasted tomatoes, that I had from before, from a past recipe I saved, and then this is just a can of other tomatoes. So it says I could have used some red pepper, but I don't have any. So this is what I'm using tonight, pretty simple. So the first thing I'm gonna do is chop my onion, and I can show you how I chop an onion. I remember that I always told you guys about tucking your fingertips over. So we peel off kind of the papery part on the outside, and onions can make you cry. As a matter of fact, I'll show you guys something funny. These are my onion goggles to keep me from crying. This onion doesn't seem like it's gonna make me cry, but I'm gonna wear them anyhow. So this is how I chop an onion when I want it just kind of small. I slice it a little bit down the middle, but not all the way. This is like the root part. I go like that. I make lines, also not till the end. One more, and then I kind of hold it. Uh-oh. And then I might take this part, seems a little bit. All right, there's one half. Peel off the outside part of the other one. Pull out this little part that looks like it was a little bit old and turning green. So then I'm going to do the same thing. I cut it this way. See this part? That's the root. That's where the onion was growing. So I don't want to cut into that. I forgot to mention, as I always tell you guys, especially these days, what the most important part of cooking is. I didn't show you myself doing it, but I was definitely doing it, which is to wash my hands. So make sure you wash your hands before you start any of this. And frankly, I wash my hands over and over again. This is not my best onion chopping. I've done better, but what I sometimes do then is just kind of run through it. See this big piece? It doesn't matter if it's perfect in this because it's just going in a big pot of chili. Okay, I've got 2 cloves of garlic. And the easiest way, they have a skin on them too, kind of like the onion. And sometimes you can just smash it. I'm not smashing it hard enough. But the other thing I do sometimes, I just kind of cut off the very tip of each end, and then it just peels right out. The litter box in the distance. Okay, so I took my 2 cloves of garlic, I cut them in half. Now I was just gonna show that I have a few different ways that I decide to cut garlic sometimes. Sometimes I just cut it up with my knife. This is called a microplane, and sometimes I rub it up and down and I get it really like almost like a paste. That's if I kind of don't want chunks, but I think what I'm gonna use is this kind of cool thing right here tonight, because I sort of want it in between my cutting it and the paste that I got. So this I bought for myself because sometimes when you cut garlic, your hands smell like garlic for a long time, which I love garlic, but sometimes I don't want it. So I'll show you what this looks like after a few good twists. You might be able to tell that I kind of like a kitchen gadget. All right. So it's all sort of smushed up in there. I have to kind of pick it out, but there's my garlic. So I have my onion and my garlic. Guys, another gadget that I love. I actually happen to have some fresh corn. It's not really in season, so it won't be its most tasty, but I love corn and I use it in lots of things. So I'm gonna use this, and I might still use a can of corn and get kind of a combination. The recipe I'm looking at says to use frozen, which actually is fine and really good, but I don't have any, and I'm just gonna use this instead. So look at this cool thing. I twist it back and forth. Can you see? I'll show you when I'm all done. Sometimes you gotta get in there with a little bit of muscle, but it takes the corn right off the cob. And it kind of gets everywhere, but it can be an even bigger mess, so this isn't bad. And even sometimes the juice that comes out is really good. It's got kind of a starchiness that can make some things thicker. There's my cob, there's my corn. But it says I need 1.5 cups, and this is only not even 1 cup. So I think I'll use the can, maybe 2. So these are green onions, also called scallions, which I really love. They're not as strong as like an onion like this. You can tell I must like onions. I think they bring a lot of flavor to things like this. So I'm gonna cut up 3 parts. I sort of take off this outer part and those little fuzzy roots. And then I'm gonna use pretty much the whole thing, but I'm gonna use the whiter part one way and the greener part another way. Here's my 3 green onions. I took off the outside part. So I'm gonna cut the white parts. I kind of just decide when to stop. They're a little bit, this one I'm gonna go a little further. I'm gonna put those in one container. What I haven't shown you is how I've pretty much washed my hands between every little step. A, to keep them clean, and B, because I don't like the feeling of food in my fingers. Okay, now these part are what are gonna be called just like a garnish. They look really pretty on top. They add color and just like a very, very light onion flavor. And that's pretty much it. So now we'll start cooking. I gotta get out a big pot. It says to use vegetable oil. I'm gonna use a little extra virgin olive oil. I like that better. It says to use a tablespoon. I don't really measure. It's about 1 time around the pan like that. And I'm gonna turn my fan on. Uh-oh, it's gonna get noisy, but I gotta do that while I'm cooking. We're letting that get hot, but I can feel it is already. So the first thing we're gonna do is put in my onion. Oh, it sizzled, so it's definitely hot enough. I'm gonna move that around. Uh-oh, that one didn't get cut up enough. I'm gonna pull it out actually. So another thing I believe in is that you need to season all the way through cooking. So I put in a tiny bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. I think you have to kind of layer on the seasoning. Okay, so this has been cooking for a few minutes, so now I'm gonna add in my garlic off my crazy twisting machine. See, there it is, I'm scraping it out. This little thing, which I call a spoonula, it's kind of like a spatula, but kind of like a spoon, is probably one of the things I use most in my whole kitchen. Let's get the garlic in there. So some of this stuff, like chopping with the big knife that I was doing, maybe you guys aren't quite ready for that, but we have those wavy choppers and you could get some at home. But certainly things like what I'm showing here, this special garlic thing, you guys could definitely do that, and it's even kind of fun. All right, so getting in there with my fingers to get the last bit out, and guess what? I'm gonna wash my hands again after I did that. So now I'm gonna bring in this Beyond Beef. So we will see, but I think it really cooks up. If any of you guys have had an Impossible Burger, which I've had, and they're really, really good. They really look and taste just like meat. So this is hopefully gonna look a lot just like, gonna act like hamburger meat, basically. So we'll see how that cooks up. So it's starting to cook. I'm adding a little more salt and a little more pepper. I mean, I think if nobody told you. Ooh, yeah, see, it even gets brown like hamburger meat. I'm trying to break it up so we don't have big giant chunks. That's why I'm sort of stabbing at it like that, because you want to have it broken up into little bite-sized pieces. Okay guys, So here's where we're at. This is kind of broken up and cooking. It's sort of hard to know when it's not really meat, when it's done. With regular meat, you don't want it to be pink anymore. And never having used this before, it smells good. It doesn't smell like meat. It sort of smells like a vegetable, but in a good way. So I'm now gonna add, one thing I did, is I decided not to use my can of corn. I thought about it some more and I decided I would keep my can for something in the future because I had that nice fresh corn and I might as well use it when it's ready. So I'm gonna pour that in. I stripped off another piece of corn with my special tool. There's my corn. And now I'm gonna add my tomatoes. I was sort of measuring some out. It is really nice. Remember what I said? I was using a can that I had of diced tomatoes. And then I had a jar left over from something I had made before that was mostly also diced tomatoes, fire roasted, which is why you see some of that black, but also a little tomato paste, which I used. But I'm really big on thinking like, doesn't really matter. You can make things taste good no matter what, and it's really good to use up everything of what you have. And actually I have more tomatoes. So here comes the rest. I always try to keep lots of canned tomatoes in my house because you just never know when you're going to use them. So I'm going to add a little bit more pepper, another layer of seasoning I call it, a little more salt. I always have a little container of kosher salt right there, right next to the, you know how I am at my salt, right next to the stove. So while this cooks a little more and the flavors kind of come together, I think it's supposed to be a little more tomatoey, but maybe I'm going to keep this one real chunky like this. I'm going to do some cleaning up. You saw how many little things I've used already, and I like to clean as I go. Okay guys, it's really bubbling now, so I'm going to add in, remember those other onions? I did a little bit of cleanup, but not much, so I have more to do. I added in those, and now I'm going to add in my spices. So that's really up to everybody. My family, except for me, doesn't like things very spicy. I do. So I'm going to add in a little bit of this chili lime seasoning blend. And then I'm going to add in just some straight chili powder. I'm going to add in a little bit of this. That's called cumin. It gives it kind of a little bit of a smokier flavor, but it's not spicy. Believe it or not, a little more salt. Maybe even a little bit of garlic salt, even though we've got garlic salt in there, and again a little more pepper. And now stir those in. I can taste later and decide if I want to add more. I have a feeling that wasn't going to be enough to give it flavor. I'm going to put the heat down a little bit. This has been on medium this whole time. You got to let those flavors combine. I'm going to put it down to low and let it bubble for 10 minutes, and in those 10 minutes I'm going to do more cleanup. So guys, while this was simmering, I cleaned up the whole kitchen, which is good, or got most of it clean, but then I also decided I did want it a little more tomato saucy, and luckily I found this one small can of tomato sauce, so I wanted it to be a little more like that. But now I'm going to let it go a little longer so those flavors can kind of go in there. And guess what I'm going to do? Another pinch of salt, another pinch of pepper, and actually I'm going to add a little more of my other spices just because tomatoes are kind of acidic, and so that probably brought in a little bit of acid that could use a little bit of the chili lime, which doesn't want to come out. There we go. And maybe just a little bit more of just the straight chili powder. Okay. Then I'll show you the end result and what I'm going to serve it with. Okay, this has been simmering a little longer. Now I'm going to take a little taste. It's going to be really hot, so I'm going to have to blow on a little bit. You'll barely see me. Hi. It's really good. In my opinion, it needs a little more chili powder. See, for me it needs to be hotter, but my family doesn't like that. So a little chili lime, again. I might even add a little more of that garlic salt. I think you guys know I like garlic salt. A little more of everything. I guess I'm going with a little pepper. Whoa, that came out fast. A little more salt. I'm gonna mix that in, let that hang out together for 1 more minute, but otherwise dinner's pretty much ready. I'm actually gonna serve this with a big ladle. This is a ladle that I like because it hangs right on the side of the pot. Pretty smart, right? Now, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna serve this with. So here's what I've got out. I've got yummy, you're gonna laugh, we got lots of chips. 3 different kinds. These are our family's really favorites. If you've never had them, they're delicious. Some open chips, which would always be my preference to use things up, as you know. And these are also really good. More like a Frito from Trader Joe's. We have those green onions. We've got some shredded cheese. This is for me, I like the spicy things. I love these hot and sweet jalapenos, or maybe I'll put some hot sauce in it, depending what I feel like. Maybe I'll do the jalapenos and the hot sauce. And then there's sour cream. So there's 4 of us in our family, and everybody likes kind of something different. So I like to have choices for everybody. Wait a minute, I forgot avocado too. We might serve it with some avocado. So that's it, guys. That was my first one. Hope that I'll get better. I'm gonna keep making them. You guys can watch them or not, cook or not. And if you really want to cook with me, let me know. Send me an email and ask me what I'm going to be making, and then I can tell you, and you can buy the ingredients, and we can cook together, sort of. Happy eating. Miss you guys.